we couldn't possibly just talk about Sonic Adventure and leave the other must-have Dreamcast launch title just waiting there in the dust. Of course, I'm talking about Soul Calibur, which remains one of my very favorite fighting games ever released. This introduction is just so badass I had to include it. This was one of the first times where the home version of an arcade classic was actually better than the arcade version. I kid you not, Soul Calibur had it all. Wonderful multiplayer, a kick-ass arcade mode, featuring a great story. It also had a really interesting mission battle mode, which we'll touch on in just a few minutes. But for right now, let's sit back and enjoy the rest of this intro. Oh, hell yeah. Tell me that wasn't just wicked. Soul Calibur remains one of my favorite games, as I said, and I mean, just look at this. We went from PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 fighters to something like this. This was just absolutely breathtaking. It was one of the most technical weapon-based fighters ever released. It was just an absolute, just superb sequel to the already fun Soul Blade. This one just improved upon it like tenfold. At launch, I don't think anyone was really quite prepared for the impact Soul Calibur would have on fighters in general. Like I said before, it featured a really interesting storyline that was wrapped around what appeared to be quite a basic arcade mode, but why it was so interesting was the fact that it contained like half of the original roster from the arcade, and that was a little perplexing at first, until you realize that the other half were unlocked later on, and there was also, this version contained a bunch of other characters that weren't in the arcade original. Now what was neat was that you didn't just beat the game in order to unlock these characters. You actually had to go through and play the mission battle mode, which was similar to that one featured in Soul Blade, except here it was just so much more deep. You picked whatever character you wanted. In my case it was Keelik. I know some people say, oh, he was really cheap, but whatever. I really enjoyed just his different move sets and the fact that he had such a long range. But in mission battle mode, what you could do is you would basically go around the map selecting different missions of various degrees of difficulty, and you essentially you'd perfect the one character that you really enjoyed using. So I actually did this twice. I did it for Mitsurugi and for Keelik. Like I said, I could not get enough of this game. Now here I just picked a different character that I never use, so sorry if the gameplay is absolutely horrendous.
This victory, you win! Battle 2, fight!
So, does Soul Calibur hold up by today's insane standards? The answer to that question is, you bet your bottom dollar it does. Soul Calibur remains my personal favorite in the series, even though the second one featuring Link on the GameCube was pretty badass. And Soul Calibur 4 was equally as fun, and Soul Calibur 5 looks pretty wicked too. There's just something magical about Soul Calibur, probably because it was such a huge leap from Soul Blade to Soul Calibur, and the fact that Soul Calibur was one of the, or it was the first video game on a console that was actually better than the arcade version. I don't know, whatever the case may be, Soul Calibur remains one of my favorite fighters of all time, and it is a super easy recommend for anyone picking up a Dreamcast. This is one game you cannot be without owning a Dreamcast. It's like, you know, milk and cookies. It goes perfectly together. If you are in the market for Dreamcast and you do pick this up, I personally recommend you pick up the Agetec joystick for the Dreamcast, just because it works extremely well. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been just so much fun remembering Soul Calibur. It is, without equal, a sensational weapon-based fighter. By all means, purchase it as soon as you can.
You lose. Final battle. Fight! This victory. You win!